Have you ever heard the term fast lens and wondered what exactly does that mean? Well, stick around, I'm going to tell you. Hi, Paul here from Photogenius. Welcome to my channel where I do photography tutorials, I share tips and tricks and do occasional gear reviews as well. So if you're new, please consider subscribing. Now this video is about fast lenses. Now what exactly is a fast lens? The term fast suggests that the lens can do something really quickly, when actually that can be a bit of a misleading term, I think, because this lens is a fast lens, but that doesn't mean it's going to be able to focus any quicker. It doesn't mean you're going to be able to zoom in any quicker. The term fast lens actually is a reference to the aperture and what that will allow us to achieve. Now, generally speaking, if a lens has an aperture of f2.8 or wider, it's a fast lens. Now, if you're not up to speed on aperture, don't worry. Here's a little overview. The aperture can be found inside of the lens. It's a mechanical opening that can be adjusted to suit our needs. The wider the aperture is, the more light can pass through the lens. The smaller the aperture, the less light can pass through the lens. So just in the same way that I can use this tap to control the flow of water, think of an aperture as a way of controlling how much light flows or passes through the lens. Now, where aperture gets confusing is how the numbers work. Each aperture position is shown as an F number. Now, this should be easy enough, but a large aperture is not a large number, and a small aperture is not a small number. The numbers are actually back to front. The F number can be found displayed on the LCD of the camera. To adjust this in aperture priority mode, you turn the dial on the top of the camera. But if you're in the manual mode, then you hold down the AV or aperture value button and turn the dial. So any lens that has a wide aperture is generally called a fast lens because it allows us to use a faster shutter speed. Now, if you're not sure how that works, no worries. Let's grab this camera, let's go outside and I'll do a demonstration for you. Now I'm starting with the standard 18 to 55mm kit lens, and I have the focal length on the lens set to 50mm. At this focal length, the maximum aperture I can set is f5.6. My ISO I've preset to 200, and the great thing about aperture priority mode is when I press the shutter button, the camera selects the shutter speed for me. Based on the light available, this is a shutter speed of 1/320th of a second. Now, whilst this is not a slow shutter speed, it is certainly not fast. Now I'm swapping the lens for the 50mm prime. Now, no change to the camera mode or the ISO, but as you can see with this lens I can select a much wider aperture. Now f1.8 is very wide and will let more light pass down the lens, and because of that our shutter speed now jumps up from 1/320th of a second to 1/2500th of a second. Now that is a fast shutter speed. Comparing the images side by side, we see the exposures are the same, but the settings of course are different. Now, whilst using a faster shutter speed isn't necessary when just taking a photo of some grass, it certainly is when trying to take a photo of my dog or any other moving subject, which is what I proceeded to do. Or at least that's what I attempted to do, but Boo only wanted to play ball. But I still managed to get a few shots along the way. Here's a small selection. These first images are shot with the kit lens at f5.6. Getting sharp images of Boo running was tricky because the slower shutter speed is simply not fast enough to freeze the movement. I persevered and got this one, which is surprisingly sharp for just 1/250th of a second. And of course, on the rare occasion when she's not moving, the kit lens is great and I'm really happy with these shots. Now with the prime lens I got a much better hit rate in terms of sharpness, with the shutter speed averaging around 2000 to 2500th of a second. And of course remember, the ability to use these faster shutter speeds is exactly why the Nifty 50 is clearly a fast lens. Now, of course, there's lots of different lenses out there to choose from. You can buy a lens that opens up to f2.8, 1.8, 1.4. Remember, the lower the f number, the wider the aperture, the faster the shutter speed. So when it comes to lenses, the lower the f number, the faster the lens. Now, should you buy a fast lens? Well, I guess it depends on what type of things you like to photograph. If you're shooting moving subjects and in particular sports, then I would definitely consider buying a fast lens. In terms of recommendations, I think the Nifty 50 is definitely the one to aim for if you're just starting out. So this is the Canon 50mm f1.8 prime lens, also known as the Nifty 50. Now, in terms of value for money, this is definitely the best one out there. In the US, this retails for about $125. It's about $180 here in Australia, but I've actually sourced some really good prices for this lens on Amazon, and I've put the links below the video so you can check them out for yourself. Now, before I wrap up the video, bonus tip. Lenses that have larger apertures are also cool for blurring backgrounds. In photography, we refer to this as a shallow depth of field. The larger the aperture will open, the shallower the depth of field, or the blurrier the background will be. It's a very, very popular look. Now, I'm going to go into depth of field in more detail in a future video, so make sure you consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos. And if you're on Instagram, you can follow me at Photogenius Brisbane. You can leave your comments, suggestions and questions down below, where you'll also find special deals on the Canon Nifty 50. I hope to see you again sometime soon. See ya. Bye.